This is Asia's Farm to Fork 5 Good Questions podcast, bringing you insights and views from across Asia's food value chain. Now, for today's interview. Hi again, everybody. Welcome back to 2025, our first episode of the year, the Farm to Fork podcast, and we're excited about having a great guest to get us started this year. We have with us Mr. Michael Keller, Secretary General of the International Seed Federation, or ISF. Michael, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Thanks for having me, and Happy New Year to all your listeners.
Excellent. Thanks, Michael. Happy New Year to you as well. And if it's okay, we'll jump right in with the first question. Welcome to 5 Good Questions. We'll see how good they are today. We're getting being tested here early in the year. Well, out of the gate, I'd like to maybe just have a quick question and give you a chance to talk a little bit about then ISF, about the work that is being led through the foundation, or federation rather, around food security specifically. I know that there's quite a bit that's happening there, and there's so many challenges, of course, that we're all working to confront and work together on. And would like to hear a little bit about some of the specific work that the International Seed Federation is leading on that front.
Thanks to you, and giving me the chance also to give some insights on the International Seed Federation. The interesting one is, we just finished 2024, and in 2024, we celebrated our 100 years as an association. That means we are a rather old and long-standing business federation. Without going too much into details, I think the most important thing today for us is that the spirit is the same. The spirit of the seed people did not change. Perhaps the business changed itself. But what are we looking for? And I think since the beginning, this was always the goal, is to provide seed choice for farmers. Why seed choice to farmers? Because we want that every farmer everywhere, and I know also I'm emphasizing here on smallholder farmers, because I know in Asia we have over 350 million smallholder farmers. What we are looking for is that improved varieties are accessible to all the farmers. And we don't care the size. The important one is that they have choice. I think since the beginning, in our mindset, and this is also still, you can find it in the mission of the International Seed Federation. What is it about our federation? Is to support movement of seed around the world more than ever in a world facing climate, more than ever in a world facing so many issues related to food security, which starts with seed security. More than ever, it is important also looking on the learnings of COVID that seed can move, because no country, and also no single country in Asia, is seed independent. On some crops, perhaps, but not on all the crops. And I think this is always what we need to keep in mind when we are speaking about seed, which is, yes, we know, and I listened some of your previous episodes. I'm always like also to emphasize, yes, seed is the starting point. Seed is the starting point of food production. But more importantly, we need to understand also that seed is incredibly necessary to be able to move within also Asia, but also within the globe. Therefore, for us, moving seed is a top priority, because seed production is in different countries where the seed will be marketed. And the second one, and I think this is something which never change, and which is in the DNA of our sector, is it innovation. Since ever, I think we, the seed people, have perhaps a short-term view, because we want to provide improved varieties to the market today and tomorrow. But more importantly, we need also to think about all the challenges the farmers are facing today, but also tomorrow, needs to be addressed in breeding programs, because breeding programs takes time. And therefore, for us, predictability around innovation, our capacity to innovate, is absolutely critical. That means these two pillars, movement of seed, but also innovation, that's in the heart also of the work of ISF. And our activities are really around these two main pillars, we have key strategic objectives, which I can certainly go deeper into, but I think in the mindset, this engagement around the world to move the seed, but also engagement around the world to reach the farmers in their diversity to provide improved seeds is critical.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael. Very insightful answer with a lot there to touch on and to come back to. One of the things you said earlier on there, really, if you've listened to our podcast, you hear the word, well, the role of smallholder farmers in this part of the world. It's central to the story about food and ag here in Asia. Smallest size farms, most smallholders anywhere in the world, and so they are really the backbone and the heart of everything that happens here. I'd like to, with a second question, maybe, in that same, the prism of the smallholder farmer experience, talk about a little bit about the balancing that it needs to happen. It's happening currently between how do we drive productivity and robust and resilient supply chain or food supply and food systems generally, versus as well at the same time, ensuring that there's conservation of biodiversity, sustainability, and all the right practices to help keep that moving as well. So, yeah, I'm just curious to hear your thoughts around that, and again, around the work that ISF is leading.
Oh, thanks so much, Jürgen. And you're touching here something what I'm always saying. At the end, when we the seed people are thinking about, hey, the agricultural system of today and tomorrow, is it intimately linked also to the question of sustainability? Because at the end, we are working with nature, we are working in nature. That means we are, first of all, perfectly aware of all the challenges we are facing today, also due to climate change. But I think we are also all aware of the responsibility we have as seed people towards nature, but also towards, I'm always saying, towards our partners, which are also our clients, the farmers. And you're touching here one word which is yet extremely important, the smallholder farmers. And I think we should also think about the smallholder farmers in Asia, yet in their fields. And we know very often that's a couple of 100 square meters. There is even in these fields, you have a huge diversity because they have not one cropping system. They're using different crops, can be vegetables, can be rice, can be corn even, or wheat, or can be also trees. That means within the small farming system, you have yet the diversity. I think for us as the seed sector, there's nothing more important than not only to maintain biodiversity, but also to contribute to even broaden biodiversity or broaden our sustainable approach. And let me start perhaps with one point, which I'm always saying, which is where I see not only our responsibility, but the joint responsibility of all those who are working with genetic resources. This is the conservation of genetic resources. That means contribution of the seed sector to the conservation of genetic resources is absolutely critical. And we have lots of partnerships with institutions like the Crop Trust, who is maintaining genetic diversity and genetic resources, but also with the CJR in this, also thinking about access and use of genetic resources, because access and use of genetic resources is always broaden also our contribution to biodiversity by using these genetic resources also, for instance, in our breeding programs. Therefore, to think about sustainability is thinking about our business model, because also when we go to the farm, when we work with the farmers, I would like to remind all of us one thing. The potential, we don't know even exactly the figures, but potentially we have more than 200,000 varieties out there in the world at the global level provided by the private sector. And every year, only in Europe, you have 5,000 to 6,000 new varieties coming on the market. Is this not also a kind of contribution to biodiversity? Is this not also a thinking about sustainability? Because sustainability we need to keep in mind. Nature is changing also. That means we need to continuously adapt ourselves also to changing environment. To think about, yeah, how can we not only adapt what we are providing, that means improved varieties, but even how we mitigate also somehow climate change. And therefore, this collaborative effort, this spirit of working with nature, this spirit of building a continued sustainable business model, which is economically sustainable, but also environmental and socially sustainable, is linked to our way of working.
Oh, that's a great answer. You don't hear, at least I don't hear much about new seed varieties in the context of biodiversity. And as you said, not maintaining, but advancing, right? And a very, very, very good answer. Thanks, Michael, for that. Something you said earlier also hit with me was I wanted to bring it to the forefront here as well, and that's innovation. You touched on it a bit in that answer as well. We talk about it a lot here. We hear a lot about it, and it's sort of in the spirit of the previous question around, and it's not really an either or proposition, right? We can do things at the same time, and innovation is always, it comes up as part of that, one of the key components that makes it all possible. So I want to just hand it over to you. So many challenges, climate change, resource management and depleting resources, and all the variety of challenges we're facing generally around the world right now. And I know that there's a big role, obviously, that you're playing there, new varieties of seeds. So any thoughts you have on that?
Oh, Duke, we could speak about so many innovation. As I mentioned to you, in the beginning, at the end, innovation is in the DNA. And I would like to remind all of us, and that's important also to think about the diversity we have in the seed sector. First of all, let me just say, within the International Seed Federation, potentially we are representing over 10,000 companies acting in 80 different crops. And yes, we have a lot of breeding programs in a diverse range of crops. The most important one, it's always difficult to single out what is more important. I would like to single out one thing because, I was just recently also in a visit in Nepal with authorities, partners from the CGIAR system, producers, farmers. And when you speak there, the question is not even about innovation. The question is just to have access to improved varieties. Yet how we can think all about also in Asia, where we know there are lots of dynamics in Asia, but at the same time, in many countries in Asia, still smallholder farmers have no seed choice. Smallholder farmers have extremely limited access to improved varieties. And we know exactly an improved variety can secure income. An improved variety, which can be pest or disease resistant, can help you also withstand this increased threat due to climate change of pests and diseases. That means, that's where we need to think also. We should not think on one single innovation which is changing the world. We need to think about how we can build a system where also the smallholder farmers, also in Nepal, where only 1/5 of the smallholder farmers has access to improved variety, can have access and choice to improved varieties. However, I'm happy also I'm one of these food waste champions of the SDG 12.3. And for me, food waste is an incredible important topic, and we need to address it because we know 20-30% of our food is wasted. And when I'm looking on some innovation or on an innovation also coming from the seed sector, because we know also when the farm produce after it's harvested comes to the client, very often it's rotten. That means this work also on increased shelf life. And in the vegetable sector, you have today tomatoes with increased shelf life. It's incredibly important because it's not only securing the income of a farmer, but it's also helping us to decrease food waste. I think this is one example where I think it's extremely important that we continue the innovation. And the second one, because I know rice is an important market in Asia and in many countries I visited, and water is an incredible important and most critical somehow input also for rice production. I think when I'm seeing what is also now coming to the market and which is also on the market today with improved root systems, which allows also perhaps with less water to have the same yield. These are incredibly important innovations also for farmers. Therefore, let me close with this. In the vegetable industry, this work on shelf life, but also when I'm looking on rice, improved root systems, which are, I think, a crucial help for farmers in a world where we know facing sometimes more floodings, but also droughts. But in general, water is a major issue.
We touch on a lot there again. Appreciate your thoughts on all of that. And I think there is a perception, I think, generally around innovation when it comes to ag inputs, always thinking about, oh yeah, driving the yield, which is huge. But of course, you touch on it as well, the SDG around food waste. Doesn't get, I mean, there's a lot of discussion around that, but not around the roles of new seed varieties and helping really address that through the work that, again, your members are leading. So thanks for that. Next question, rapid fire questions. I'd like to maybe touch on another point that you raised in a couple of answers earlier as well around, you mentioned CGIAR in particular as a partner and as someone that, ISF has been collaborating with. So partnerships, we talk a lot about, you really can't go it alone, right? If you want to go far, you really have to have a partner, have to have someone that you're working with. And so it's central. And we're talking about civil society and governments and business community, and really having to work more and more closely together to address some of these big challenges. So again, just wanted to get your thoughts on that, the role of partnerships, particularly in meeting and addressing some of the challenges that have come up in this chat today.
Thanks so much, Jürgen. And here you're touching something which is really somehow in the heart of my philosophy. I'm since 10 years now in the International Seed Federation as Secretary General. And for me, since the beginning, one of the most essential things is also, first of all, to accept the private sector and the private seed sector is not the only solution provider. And we cannot do it alone. And I think this thinking, that's the same with like one innovation will not be enough, but also the whole private seed sector is not enough. We need to think about how we can build a collaborative spirit, how we can build also the thinking about let's do it together. And when I'm saying let's do it together, let me start perhaps because for me, it's a wonderful example of what we could what we put in place in the recent months, because it takes also a lot of time to move forward. You need to build trust. You need to build trust not only to regulators, but also you need to build trust to partners. And we signed, 1.5 years ago now with CJR a memorandum of understanding. And this is for me crucial because I see absolutely the complementarity of what CJR is doing in terms of research, in terms of supporting farmers, and what the private sector is doing. That means I see that, if the private sector is collaborating in the right way with CJR, taking up also genetic material coming from the CJR, further fine-tuning it and bring it to the market, that's a system which can be extremely helpful to increase the seed choice for farmers. And very often we have very nice examples between IRI and the private sector around rice varieties and material coming from IRI and then brought to the market. Final material or further bred material then also from the private sector. And we need to go further because, I'm going back because we could use many other examples, but it's like when I went to Nepal, the discussions around choice for farmers, seed choice for farmers, it's not just to build a supply system from the private sector to a farmer. No, it's the whole setup of the seed value chain. And when I'm saying seed value chain, which can very often start in the public sector, going to the private sector, and then going to the farmer, means also the overall regulatory oversight. Because somehow, when the private sector is looking also on how I will be able to provide seeds to a smallholder farm in Nepal, yeah, the private sector is also looking on the regulatory oversight. And this is exactly also one of the topics we are discussing together and we have in our memorandum of understanding with the CJR is the overall regulatory oversight. That means these farmers seed systems, to build seed systems in the different countries. You see? And therefore, it's about the work with the genetics, but it's also this work about politics and regulatory oversight, which is nicely covered within the Memorandum of Understanding. I could mention you many others, but allow me, because I know today we are here in a Crop Life Asia broadcast, to mention also one of the many collaborations we have also with CropLife itself. And this is, and I know this is a topic, I think it was certainly raised, I imagine it was raised in your previous podcast, is our joint engagement against illegal seed practices. We cannot accept it. We have not the right that within the seed sector we have infringers or outside the seed sector, we have infringers using illegally our material to bring it to farmers. Because whenever this happens, the farmer who is buying crap potentially can survive. Our business model can survive. But the farmer itself buying seeds, thinking this will germinate, thinking this will provide harvest for her or his family, thinking this will provide income, and then discovering that she or he bought crap, the farmer has a serious issue on her or his business. Therefore, we have a responsibility. And this engagement, this signature of a memorandum of understanding between many, many organizations, but also CropLife is absolutely critical. And this engagement is not only between us, because more importantly, we need to go out. We need to speak to authorities. We need to speak at international organizations. We need to speak even to in the countries, prosecutors, judges, police, to understand that perhaps financially for a country, they can survive. But the impact on the agricultural system, but also the impact on the spread of diseases or pests can be extreme. And therefore, it's a collaborative effort, and I'm extremely happy that we have also this kind of relationship with CropLife to think, to engage, and also to perform together for the sake to maintain a choice of healthy seeds for farmers.
Thanks, Michael. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about that topic generally here in this region as well, and we talk a lot about, it's very unfortunate and tragic when you've got a handbag or a phone or whatever it may be, if it's counterfeit or illegal. But if it's seeds or crop protection products, the stakes are so much higher, and the farmers, as you said, who are living in the margins are the ones that are really at jeopardy and at risk. So thank you for including that in your answer as well. So we come to the last question. This is the one that it may be the hardest, it may not be, but it can be the most difficult if you think about it. We're on the cusp of the Lunar New Year here in Asia, and when this is broadcast, we may be right in the middle of it. And with that, of course, a lot of the festivities and family gatherings and friends and so forth that happen during the Lunar New Year are great. But central to all of it is, of course, the food, great food across this region. So you mentioned Nepal in your visits here, and I'm sure other places as well across the region. I wanted to get your thoughts. Any food that you would highlight maybe as a favorite from this part of the world?
Oh, that's an extremely nice question also, because again, let's remind 80% of all the food is plant-based. And what's the starting point of plants? That means you can imagine we need to be interested in food. And even more important, we need to praise even the diversity of food. Yeah, let me make it short because it's very difficult. We are representing the diversity of actors around the world and also in Asia. That means I could start to say, I love something from Japan, China, or elsewhere. I keep it at the level of the country I mentioned yet before, because this was my last travel to Asia, and this was in Nepal, and I really would like to emphasize the openness and this culture of welcoming, first of all, of the Nepali. And we had a wonderful dinner also together with the authorities in a beautiful setup in Nepal. And we've eaten this dal bhat takari, which is this kind of spicy, rather lentil soup and with rice, pickles, lemons. And it was just a wonderful experience and tasteful. Yeah, it was spicy. Let's say it like this. I keep it like this. Was it too spicy for me? I will not go into the details, but I loved it. And I think each time when I'm traveling around, and it's for me the biggest pleasure to discover also the diversity not only of culture but also the diversity of food. And therefore I think this was one of my most recent experience in Asia.
Thanks, Michael. That's a great answer, and we have not had that before. I don't believe so. We talk about the compilation of these answers for the fifth question, and maybe we'll do a cookbook. That was like a good recipe to have for that particular curry. So thank you for that. We've come to the end of the five questions. Thank you again for your time. You're all officially off the hot seat, and we just want to thank you again for your being here with us today and sharing your thoughts. Thanks, Michael. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast, and if you did, please rate, review, and subscribe. We look forward to bringing you another 5 Good Questions interview